All right, guys. So this is Sean Fitzgerald, and this is episode number 13 of the Business Journey podcast. Super excited about today's show. We have Joseph Calabria. We just learned how to say that about 5 seconds ago. So, my man, welcome to the show.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. I mean, I've always known how to say my name. I was always told that that's the way you say it. But I just felt compelled to, on record, officially look it up.
Yes.
And I was right. So
Yeah,
I've been right about how to say my last name now for at least the last 30 years. Maybe I was fixed when I was... No, I think I always said it that way.
You always had it that
Yeah,
way.
I think I always said it that way. So
That's great. So, how's it been, man? I know you had a baby recently.
yeah.
A lot of work, a lot of
Definitely.
sleepless nights.
No, definitely. A pretty interesting August in general. I mean, even just this year, I started my own business, which I've done many times unsuccessfully in a lot of different areas, and but I really went all in at about the end of May, and then the baby was due the baby was due end of July, but he showed up August 2nd. And then at the same time, I got hired for basically a dream coaching position.
Yeah, which is
so
awesome.
I try to get about 36 hours of work done in a 24-hour day.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's
It
it's
never,
fantastic.
it seems like there's never enough time. I know.
Yeah, that's just what it is. And I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get better,
Yeah.
but that's just what it is.
Yeah, like you said, man, a lot of unsuccessful businesses, that's how you learn. That's how you learn.
Yeah.
You just learn from making mistakes and keep chucking away at it, and eventually you'll make the shot, you know?
I apparently love to learn the hard way.
Trying to make some best.
I must think that that's a good idea. Yeah, no, I'm feeling that. What did Jordan say? You only miss the shots that you don't. Oh, it's Gretzky. You only miss the shots you don't take.
Yes, yeah.
So
That's great, man. So, the business you started, it's acupuncture?
yes.
And
yes.
what type of services do you guys do there? Is it just like for pain relief and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, really, I've always been interested in orthopedics, right? When I was a personal trainer years ago, I was working people out, and then I was pushing my own body, and then I'd hurt my shoulder, and I was like, this is interesting, and then I'd have to like try to change things, and then I would notice that I'd end up with clients that, my shoulder hurts too. And I'd be like, well, let's try this, let's try that, and then next thing I knew, I said, maybe I want to get into physical therapy or so forth, and instead, that ended up leading me to a very good friend that he said, hey, you should take a look at acupuncture. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I looked at acupuncture. I liked it a lot. And then tried a lot of different things. But then once I really got rolling with acupuncture and I stayed focused on orthopedics, I ended up trying a bunch of different things that didn't work.
Yeah.
But I really honed in on orthopedics. And then the most important thing that I honed in on was myself. I was just like, I'm just going to go all in on me.
Yeah.
And because I've always seeked others. I've always seeked other people in the sense, and this isn't a bad thing necessarily.
Yeah.
I encourage people to do this. However, be
Like a role
self-aware. Yeah,
Yeah.
Even just, I think that it's very easy to doubt yourself. I think it's very easy for me to be like, well, I know people that have done certain things successfully, so I'm going to just try to follow their footsteps and try to do it the way they're doing, and maybe even work alongside them and things like that, where, those people may be very successful because they're following things the way they believe they should be following it, and that might not work for you necessarily.
Exactly, yeah, because everyone thinks a different way.
Exactly.
And you have to be, like we've talked about all the time, you just have to be yourself and be authentic, and that's kind of the way you can push it. But I agree with what you're saying. If you learn from somebody who has the experience, take away the knowledge of the industry, quote unquote, and then spin your personal touch to it, that's probably the best way. Right?
Yeah, man. It has to be. It's got to be your personal touch, and it's got to be. You got to trust yourself. You can't just rely on other people. I find that myself always looking to want to rely on other people is my own insecurity.
Yeah.
I don't believe in myself being able to do it on my own, so I'm always like, I need this person or I need that person.
Yeah.
And that ends up leading to more failure than anything. So instead, I just have to make the difficult decision to go the hard way and go all in on me, and it's been nothing but the best. So I mean,
That's
even
awesome.
back to the original question, now I'm working with, I've always talked about it, but since I've gone all in on myself, now I work with all Division I athletes,
Yeah.
Professional athletes, a lot
Mainly
of
basketball, or?
a ton of basketball.
Yeah.
I get football, soccer, lacrosse.
What's the most common what's like the most common injury you see? Is it shoulder or knee?
Most common, I would say, is low back.
Lower back.
And I would say I wouldn't even necessarily always call it an injury as much as an imbalance, because I'll find often where people have an issue maybe in the knee or in the ankle, or heel pain, or they'll end up with something in their Achilles. I can usually find a relationship into their hip alignment, which then we also realize that, oh, you've got some kind of issue going on in your low back as well. And they're like, oh yeah, that's always bothered me.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the focus is always, the knee. So it's easy. You end up chasing the pain
Yeah.
rather than just honing in on like, okay, where's this really coming
crazy.
from?
Yeah.
So very often it ends up coming back to that.
So is that what sparked? So just to go back to the beginning, is that what sparked like you wanting to start the businesses? You had pain of your own, and you were like, "Yo, I need to figure out the best way to figure this out." And then it kind of just stemmed from there.
Yeah. I that was how I ended up in healthcare in general. Me starting the business came from I needed to be in complete control of my own schedule.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, my true deep down desire is to coach basketball.
Yeah.
So now I've been doing that for over 6 years, and kids are on a very specific schedule when you're coaching basketball. They've got school. If I was a teacher, this would be very fluid.
Yeah.
But I'm not. So kids, they got school, then they got their practices, then they've got homework, and if you want to coach at that level, you got to be on their schedule. They're not going to be on yours.
Yeah.
So I'm able to adjust that by having my own business.
That's good. And how did you? Only because I want to dive a little bit deeper, like how you came up with the idea and like how you started everything. What research did you do beforehand to like figure out like, I want to open in this place? You have one location right now.
Yeah.
So like, how did you figure out how to pick that location? And
So really good question.
did you work for someone before, or?
It actually, yeah, I did. Okay. So when I got my license, I came in, I was seeing patients under my friend Jordan's business. And also he worked with business partners that they run medical facilities in general. So they asked me to come in and they asked me to fix one of their facilities. They said, this facility is losing like $60,000, $70,000 a month. Wow. And it's been doing it for months. So I said, okay, there's not necessarily a magic ingredient here. Really, the magic ingredient is people. If either the people that are there can do the job and function, but they're not in the right place to be able to do it, or you need new people.
Yeah.
In some cases, it was both, and all I did was put a heavy focus on getting the people that were there to function. If they couldn't, replace them with people that did, because ultimately everyone's going to be happier, not just the owners in the business, but the person that didn't really want to be there to begin with. That's why that's the only reason why you're not functioning in a job. Then in that case, the business started to go well over, became the most profitable location and the most profitable they've ever been in that particular location.
That's awesome.
However, I did want to go about things my own way, differently. And I didn't want to be in just this general healthcare facilities. As far as running the facilities, I wanted to actually get my hands on patients and then stay more focused, particularly on acupuncture, and then give myself a chance to control my schedule, because ultimately coaching has always been the big thing.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
So that was.
Yeah, I like what you're doing with the on social media too. How you're posting like someone comes in and they're doing the cup therapy or acupuncture. I find that stuff awesome, and it's cool you share it, because I would imagine other businesses that are similar to yours probably aren't doing the same thing. Right? Maybe the top places.
They don't, and they do. And so I'll put it to you this way. I think a lot of people are set on their insecurities.
Yeah.
So when they do post stuff about that, it's very general, and it's usually like stock photos and things like that.
Yeah, that's true.
I find that me posting those things in particular, and here's what encourages me more than anything about posting very specifically about myself and what I'm doing. When I'm seeing a patient, right? Say you come in and you come and get acupuncture with me, and you bring your friend who's never had acupuncture before, thinks you're nuts because you're coming in to get acupuncture. They always do.
That's me.
They're like, you're out of your mind. You're getting acupuncture. So what the friend does, or in this case, I guess you're the friend.
Yeah.
What the friend does is, actually, this is funny. Jake comes and gets acupuncture all the time. So Jake is coming to get it. You're the friend. So you come in and you're like, what is this? And you see me doing my thing. And now right in front of your eyes, Jake is getting results.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing very specific things where you're like, wait a minute, why are you doing that? And I'm like, well, because I'm looking for his hip alignment here. And then also based on the kinetic chain that this could be affecting his calf. And you're like, oh, that happens to me.
Yeah.
How much is this again? Was my insurance covered? Then we get down, then we start going down that path.
Yeah,
so I end
true.
up opening more eyes to it. And then they're like, wait a minute, I need this. I can't tell you how many patients I get just because someone brings a friend to see it.
Yeah.
And they go from, wow, you're nuts to, hey, how do I schedule an appointment?
That's awesome. Now, what's your what's like your long-term plan with the acupuncture before we move over to the basketball? Are you trying to like, do you have a plan like, hey, I want to open up another location? Or you're just trying to figure it out, work on the one location for now, kind of see how it goes, make sure it works with the basketball?
My long-term plan would be I'm not worried about scaling. I'd be more concerned about being innovative and being able to function at full capacity even when I'm not there. So, for example, if basketball is a high demand, my wife, she's an acupuncturist.
Yeah,
so
she could help out.
She could see patients, right? Exactly.
The baby one day.
If I, no, I won't let him into healthcare. No, he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, right.
But if I brought in an acupuncturist, if that person if I have the ability to develop that person, if I can really get that person to be great, and that person can be taken care of to where they're bought in, and then they want to be here, and they need to, and they are also expanding because they're creating a demand. Well, now you have the opportunity for another office or things like that, right?
Yeah.
But I'll cross that bridge once I can take care of today and tomorrow. Right now, the business itself is functioning very well.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
I'm perfectly fine with where that is because, like you said, ultimately the goal is to continue coaching more than anything.
That's cool. One more thing. What's like? I always find this an interesting question. Like, what there had to be? I know the business is going well now, but was there like one time, maybe when you first started, or a couple months after you started, that there was just like I don't want to say a dark time, but there was like a really tough time, and like, how did you get through that
Whole year?
And what was it?
Yeah, over the last year, I would say that the hardest part was not really profiting at all, and the biggest issue with that was having multiple individuals involved, constantly not circling back to just being like, hey, I have to be all in on myself. It's very easy to be insecure about what you're doing and then be like, well, shouldn't this person take care of that, or shouldn't that person take care of this?
Yeah.
And ultimately, the only person that should take care of anything is you taking care of what you need to take care of, and that's it.
Yeah,
and
when you own a business, everything's the owner's fault.
Yeah, exactly. But when you have multiple hands in, when you have partners and things like that, then you're like, all right, where should I go about? And then with decision making and such, and then also too, I had worked in partnerships with individuals that were very invested in other businesses where they didn't even need this one. So in that sense, I was like, all right, I said, what am I really doing with myself here?
Yeah.
So I took it back and I said, no, what I really need to do is go all in on myself, because then ultimately I can take stress off of everybody else, because there's really no reason for them to be into this kind of business right now anyway.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's how you got through the dark times. You get through the dark times by going all in on yourself. I got 3 very specific things that I do. The number one thing that I committed to when everything started to work was I keep promises to myself. The second thing that I made sure I do is I only focus on internal validation, not external. I don't care if people think I'm doing good. I don't care if people think I'm doing bad. I only care about how I know my effort is going and what I'm getting out of that. And then the third thing that I did or do that I committed to is I drawing a blank real quick. I do not contemplate. Don't contemplate, do immediately.
Yep.
Right? Don't even think. As soon as I find myself thinking too long, looking for pros and cons, I'm already lost.
Yeah. That's, I mean, people have heard me say this on the podcast. They're probably so sick of it. But before I started this, I did a very similar thing. I was so overthinking it. And similar to what you said, pros and cons. I'm like, oh, if I do it this way, what's going to happen? Oh, I need this equipment. Oh, I remember you and I were talking about like the speakers that you put on your shirt. I'm like, oh, maybe I should do it that way. Like, I was going so over the top, and I'm like, yo, like I went so crazy. Like, yo, maybe I need to hire someone to help me with the technical aspect of it.
That's all excuses.
I'm like, yo, just start, and
Yeah.
you'll make mistakes and you'll learn from it. Dude, the first podcast I did was like, the other person's mic wasn't turned on, like just beyond stupid stuff. But you learn little things like that as you go on, and like you said, just don't overthink it. Just do it. I love that.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love
now that you do it, how do you feel compared to before?
Dude, I love it. I love it. Honestly, this was one of the things I was like, two main reasons I wanted to start it. One was I really just wanted to build more of a personal brand for myself, have content for myself on social media. I don't really post a lot. So I'm like, oh, this will be one way to help me develop some more content. And two, it sounds kind of silly, but like for leaving a legacy, like I always thought it would be so cool. Like if I have a grandkid one day or even a kid one day, I think it would be so awesome for them in 10 years. Let's just, one day I'm going to die. It would be so awesome for them to be able to look back and be like, oh, Sean has like all these podcasts and videos. Let me go back and like look at some of that stuff so I can see kind of the type of person he was.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather, I have no idea the type of person he was. There's nothing I could look back and read on or watch video on. So I think generating content also excites me for that part. You know what I mean?
No, this conversation is scary. This is messed up because I was just telling my cousin yesterday. So I have to. I'm going to document this as well right now. I got to start a podcast. I have to. I have to start not only the podcast, but I have to put more effort. I used to put a lot of effort into social media, and I really ran with it, and I got scared of it because of my insecurities. And
happens.
I know that I have to push it. So yesterday, I'm in the car, going to the supermarket. I'm stopping at the supermarket, and I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, like if I die. So my son is 7 weeks old. I said, wow, if I were to die right now, he'd have no idea who I really was. You know,
Yeah,
a little bit here and there, but like he'd be like, who was my dad or anything, right?
Yeah.
I said, you know, if I really made it a point to document the things that I'm doing, I could raise him even if I wasn't here.
Yeah.
You know, maybe particular things that I always talk about and so forth that I keep going over and that
Values
you
and whatnot,
right. And then he would, you know, hear stories and be like, well, my dad always said this and that must be why he acted like that.
Yeah.
And as I got out of the car and started walking to the supermarket and I'm looking down in deep thought, there was a car, you know, I'm walking along all the cars, car hit reverse hard, almost hit me right at that exact thought. And I looked up and I was like, okay, God, like I got it.
Yeah, I
got
heard
you.
you. I hear
Said
you.
enough. Right. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
So that was like, I literally just said that to my cousin yesterday. So
That's crazy.
it feels really good to actually be documenting
Yeah.
something today.
That's awesome, man. And I mean, for you, it would be, you could easily do a basketball related one, health related one, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I did.
It's easy for you. You could do
And,
it.
and let me tell you, man, you know, here's something that I like talking about because it's my biggest failure to date is back in about 2012 when Instagram was really starting to pop. There were guys on there that some people may even know, you know, DJ Sackman, Michael Lancaster, Jordan Lawley, Tyler Ralph, Devin Williams that does 10,000 hours. There's all these different like basketball social media guys.
Mm-hmm.
All those guys were at basically 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
You know, post things. I was doing the same thing. Same thing. Talking to these guys, talking to DJ on the cell phone.
Yeah.
Like trying to set up camps, things like that. Like we were on the I'm getting a ton of views, likes, whatever you want to measure things with, comments. I'm not answering comments.
Yeah.
I'm getting 40 people commenting and I'm like, do I answer that? What do I do? Like, is that
Yeah.
like, does that look cool if I answer it or not? Like, how do you treat this?
Yeah.
Right.
You start overthinking it again.
100%. And then I'm posting stuff and I'm like, well, what else can I post on here? And I'm doing stuff and I'm getting the same attention the rest of these guys are getting. They're even comparing me to these other big time guys. I get scared. I'm like, what if people like think I'm a fraud or something? Like
Yeah.
some of these guys played pro. I didn't play pro. Maybe that's like a criteria. I started making up my own, like the criteria you would need to be on Instagram,
Dude,
right?
It's crazy the
Yeah.
stuff that runs through your mind. man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now looking at it, I still have my same 2,000 something followers that I had back in 2012, 2013. And these guys have got, you know, anywhere between 250,000 to 500,000 followers. And they've got
That blue check,
contracts with Adidas and they're doing camps overseas and all
Yeah.
these different things. And they got 2 arms and 2 legs like I do and just love to analyze and break down basketball and do all that kind of stuff.
Which
and,
you love to do.
Which
and
I
you could do easily.
100%. I do it. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I just don't put it on video and post it and things.
Yeah.
I've gotten into the position of coaching that I'm in right now because of my own little small world of what you could call social media.
Yeah.
So I always think of social media as, you know, if somebody gave you the chance to be in Madison Square Garden and be in front of, 50,000 screaming fans, that's what social media really is. I do it at a little gym in Hauppauge where there's about 16 parents there.
Yeah, but it's
and they're
awesome.
like, wow, he's doing the right thing. And then word gets around a little bit. And then I end up getting this opportunity and that opportunity. So I was just dumb for not wanting to really push myself to be uncomfortable and do it in front of the 50,000 people instead of 16 people.
Yeah, and you've been seeing, I mean, I know I've followed your basketball stuff too. You're like posting at games, practices, workouts, which is awesome. You've been seeing positive feedback from that too?
Yeah, and I mean, I've not been consistent at all with that. I've always seen every time I've done it, I get positive feedback from it.
Yeah.
My main problem has always been thinking of it.
Yeah.
So if I'm there in the gym and I'll be like, oh, I got to get some video today, and I'll go into the gym and then I'm coaching and I'm teaching. I'm not videoing anything. I'm in the zone.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just going.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's almost like I completely get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like you want to focus on the training and you don't want to have to worry about pulling out your camera and being like,
I don't even think of it.
Yeah, it doesn't even come to
By
your
the
head.
time by the time I'm really rocking and rolling with the kids,
Yeah.
we get in there for an hour workout at 4:00, 5
Yeah.
o'clock shows. Actually, 5:15 shows up, and I'm like, oh man, I'm still, I'm
Yeah.
just get in the zone, and that's it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. One thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't want to forget about it, is I know back in the day when I first met you, I don't really remember how many years ago, maybe 6 years ago. I remember you were working at Apple. I think you were a manager at the time, or
Yeah.
You were working at Apple. From what I remember, it was a good paying job. You had the security and all that fun stuff. And I literally remember the time you left that job and started coaching basketball. And I swear, at that time, my mind wasn't in the same place it is now. So at that time, I was like, damn, what's Joe doing? He had such a safe job.
This is
And,
coach, man. Yeah.
What's he doing? But now that I've seen how you've gone from coaching kids to now varsity at Stony Brook, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I think, dude, that's like amazing that you did that. And I think a lot of people should learn from that, hey, if you're somewhere that you don't enjoy working or somewhere that maybe you like working, but it's not your passion, like basketball is obviously your passion. And maybe you did like working at Apple, but
Loved it.
basketball was the full passion.
Yeah.
And you left and did that. It was a risk, A, and B, it's probably something you are very happy you did, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it can go twofold, right? It's easy for me to, and this is what everyone can do. This is why you have to ignore. I'm going to go in a circle right now, right? So let's go to, this is the reason why you cannot contemplate and you have to do. Because every choice you make is a bad idea. Every choice you make is a good idea. Yeah. Every single choice. They're bad and they're good. So when it comes down to it, I can easily look back at my decision on leaving Apple and regret it. I could convince myself to regret it.
Yeah.
I could be like, oh, I could have been more financially stable going through. I could have built this slower. I could have done this and that. Also, I can easily look back and say, if I didn't leave Apple, I never get the experience coaching at Ward Melville as an assistant coach.
Yeah.
And being able to follow that coach, because I would have never had the time to do it. Then I followed that coach to Upper Room, where I got the experience at Upper Room, coaching at a private school where we could recruit, and we had kids from Venezuela, from Nigeria, from Serbia. Now I'm getting the whole experience of seeing how that world works. I then, fast forward 6 years later to today, go into an interview at Stony Brook High School, the Stony Brook School, which is basically the Harvard, Stanford of New York private schools. It's a 58-acre campus with 200 beds. The place is gorgeous.
What was that feeling like when you did that interview?
Unbelievable, because I walked in beyond confident. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I've done this before.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been in this situation, because they went from being in the public school leagues where you can't recruit, you can't do any of that stuff. Then just this past year, they went to the private school league.
Oh, just past year.
Just this past year is the first year since 1922 that they've done this. That's when they opened. So now them coming into this, they're like, we need someone that has this kind of experience, that can take us to the place where they really want to go. They want to go on a regional and national level.
Yeah.
And I'm able to walk in and be like, hey, I can be your guy. And they 100% felt that. I was very loved the AD, everybody. The place is great. It's like a dream job.
That's also
If I don't leave Apple, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I can
true.
easily look back and regret this. So I cannot say how important your decision's your decision. The end. That fork in the road. They both bad ideas.
That's so true. I feel this is all going back to us overthinking things. It's just like in the moment, you have to do what feels right to you.
Yeah.
You know, don't sit there and think about it for 8 weeks. Obviously, if it's a big financial decision, you have kids and a house, and obviously, yes, give some time to think about it. But
I'm going to make this. I'm going to actually put even a twist on that.
let's do it.
Your gut, sure, you should follow your gut. I'm a big believer in that. Yep. Also, go the hard way. Me leaving Apple was the hard way. I didn't realize that at the time.
Point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Every time I try to go the easy route, let me see if I can include this person. They know what they're doing, things like that. Maybe I can do. Anytime I go the easy, it fails. Do it go the hard way. Challenge yourself, push yourself. Not only are you going to get confidence out of it, but you're going to end up going through the particular steps that you need to go through to get the experience that you need to be able to get to your next steps. Yeah. Otherwise, that's what really slows you down.
Yeah, that's a good point. But what do you think led to Stony Brook? Like, how did they reach out to you? What was that whole process? Like, did they email you, call you? Like,
let's go down this. This is another rabbit hole. Okay, so check this out. I'm a coach, AAU, right, for the Long Island Lightning. Right, Long Island Lightning is one of the biggest organizations, largest in the Northeast.
What age group of kids? It's all different ranges.
Well, I started in 5th grade, and I keep them the whole time. Now my guys are juniors; they're 16 years old. So I've always so they got all ages. Right, that was where I started, and now that's where I am. However, the Long Island Lightning also had a branch in Suffolk. The director in Suffolk, who was the first person to give me an opportunity, he had a falling out with the Lightning, over branding disagreements, and then started Premier Basketball here in Hauppauge. Now, Premier's brand new. My kids are older. They're in an opportunity to be recruited for college. Here I am falling down the path of fear. I'm like, man, I should really stay with the Lightning because, I know what I get with them. I know what type of tournaments that they can make sure I'm in if there's any problems I run into, all these different things, right? So I decide that I'm going to go and do my thing with the Lightning. Then I leave an opportunity to have a conversation with the director of Premier because I said, I respect him and he's always been very good to me, and let me make sure I go into a deep thought with him.
How long at this point were you doing the AAU for?
This is 5 years.
5 years.
Yep,
Okay,
I've been in there for 5 years now with the Lightning.
Okay.
So I go with him. We're talking, and I'm just like, man, I know what I get from him. He Rob Pavanelli, he's always taking care of me. So I said, I forget. I don't care what other people's opinions are. I don't care about any of that stuff. All I can care about is going all in on me, and with who I feel and know in my gut. Back to your point, will take care of me, right? So lo and behold, I let them know with the Lightning. They're very angry, and mind you, I'm a volunteer at a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Volunteer at a nonprofit,
and they're angry.
And angry. So
angry because you're contemplating
because of
different position.
Just not contemplating, just that I decided that I was like, look, I'm going to stay local with Premier, but it's right in our backyard.
Yeah.
And there was still some things up in the air with Lightning that I said, you know what, I'm just more comfortable doing this. And so was the families. The families were more comfortable going with Premier, and to me that goes above all.
Yeah.
So circling back to that, here I am doing my thing. I put my acupuncture business in that location. There's a strength and conditioning coach who does very well, Mike Kaplan. He'll probably be on your podcast because I'm going to connect you with him. Awesome. He works with a ton of professionals and college athletes all the time, celebrities, people that come in for East Fitness out in Hauppauge. So I'm in there, and the athletic director at Stony Brook calls the director of Premier Basketball and says, hey, our coach just retired. We're in the PSAA now, which is the private school league. Do you have any recommendations? He says, I know exactly who you need to talk to. connects me with the athletic director, and there you go. There's your butterfly effect.
That's awesome.
There's your butterfly effect. I stay with the Lightning. This doesn't happen.
Yeah. What was that feeling like? Did you get a phone call or
He gave me his number, and then I called Dan, the athletic director, spoke to him, and outside of any we barely talked basketball. We talked principles and values over everything. We talked about what it really means to develop kids, what it means to develop future leaders of our community, and not only being in the type of situation where we've got representation from over 26 different countries because of international kids. So now I'm in the global leadership, which is just fantastic, mind blowing to me. So we just aligned on principles and values and morals and ethics like perfectly. That I was like, this guy's great. I was like, this is like talking to myself. This is awesome. And I imagine he felt very much the same way, because he was like, no, this is the right. Because I didn't even know there were some very, very good coaches that interviewed for that job. Very good. So I'm extremely fortunate to be able to align like that and end up in this situation.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And when does that position started already? When did that start?
Yeah, that was so. I did the interview in July.
Okay.
And then he said, I'm going to make the decision in a couple of weeks. My wife goes into labor. My son is born on August 2nd, which is a Friday. I get a voicemail that Friday being like, hey, when you get a chance, give me a call from the AD. And I got back to him on Monday.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, listen, this is again how the conversation goes. This is great. He goes, I think you're the perfect person for the job. Really want you here. He said, you got a lot going on with your family, with your son. He's like, I don't even want you to talk to me this week. He's like, spend time with your family, everything. I'm like, this is great. I'm like, these are people. It reminds me of Apple. It reminds me of the Apple culture when they put people first.
They truly care about you. Yeah,
absolutely. And he's like, talk to your wife and stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, man, we just had this baby, and like, it's like we're busy, and this is a dream coaching job for me. Like, I need to take this job, and like my business is starting to take off, and I'm just going to hurt the business because I got to cut back. I got to scale back. It is what it is. Knowing that, this was, I didn't plan on taking a coaching job right now. This just happened. And I walked into the kitchen after I got off the phone. I told my wife, and she was like almost in tears. She was so excited. She was so happy. And I'm like, and it just felt so good to be like, this is my teammate right here. I'm like, this is what it is.
That's amazing, dude.
And that was it, man. I was in, and then I hit Dan back, I think a couple of days later, because in the world of recruiting, people aren't waiting for you. And once people started to get wind, because I was like, I'm taking the job. I told him pretty much right away. I told him I was taking the job. But he was like, we'll worry about paperwork and everything later.
Yeah.
And he's like, just spend time with your family. But once I had people that were interested in coming to the school, I was like, hey, Dan, I know we're gonna wait, but like, let's rock and roll. I was like, because I'm trying to get people in ASAP. They're interested, and I'm trying to get them in here to see what's up. So
that's great. And these kids reaching out to you that want to play on the team from all over the world, or just from the U.S.? Like, how does that whole thing work?
Yeah, a little bit of both, 100%.
And they just reach out. They try to reach out to you directly, basically.
Some of them do.
Yeah.
What will happen is I will get reached out to indirectly from possible coaches. People that say, hey, I've got a kid on my team that they keep looking for private schools and things like that, and I just told them about you.
Yeah.
Because my position on this is, my stance on this is that I'm not walking into other schools' practices and things like that and being like, hey, you got to come to Stony Brook. You should leave here and come to Stony Brook. I'm finding kids that the families are exploring private schools and exploring a different type of basketball experience. And I'm saying, hey, before you leave to New England or North Carolina or wherever else that they've got this kind of culture, come check us out.
Yeah.
Come do a tour. Okay. Meet the athletic director. Yeah. So it's going that exactly.
For the culture first. Yeah.
Exactly. I want them to see, and I'm not looking to pressure people. I'm not looking to be like, no, you got to come here, because it might not be the best experience.
Yeah.
And for them anyway. Yeah. I think it's the best experience.
No,
but that doesn't matter.
That's a great way to do it. I'm the same way in business. I never try to pressure anybody. Show them what you have, and
that's it.
Be honest with them and be yourself. And if they like it, then it's an easy sell. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if they don't like, I don't need them. Don't go there, because you're just going to be miserable. And then I gotta, not only do I have to make sure you have a great experience, but I'm responsible for at least if I got 12 kids on the roster, that's 12 kids.
Yeah.
That, you know, that's a big
Yeah.
responsibility. So
That's true. So man, you have a lot going on. What do you do to like keep your mind like, you know, clear? You meditate, work out,
good. Yeah,
I guess play
good
basketball.
question. Good question, right?
Is there like something that you do?
So I would say that the biggest thing that I do
Mm-hmm.
is I'm inconsistent. So sometimes I will do things as far
Mm-hmm.
as try to work out a little bit. But I'll distract myself from my workouts because
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, well, I really got to take care of this for work, or I got to do that for, you know,
Yeah.
I'm looking up this for
So
coaching.
it's like an unfocused workout.
Yeah, exactly. And then I also do the same thing with meditation. I won't be consistent. I'll do it a day here or there, things like that.
I'm usually similar too with meditation. It depends. If I'm super stressed, I'll meditate.
Right.
And it helps, you know, clear my mind. But when I meditate, it's like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
5-6 minutes. I don't do anything crazy. But if I'm having a real tough day, that's when I'll do it. But yeah, I'm the same way. Inconsistent with the meditation.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably the best thing that I'm at is reading. You know, I'll definitely read because I like to take things that I read and apply it.
Yep.
Actually, the main thing I didn't even realize that I do, funny, and this is one of the reasons why I was like, I really need my own podcast, is the way that I really internalize things right now is on my way back and forth to work or going to Stony Brook or anywhere that I'm driving to. I don't listen to music anymore. I got podcasts on.
Yeah, I do the same
I'm listening to Andy Frisella or Gary Vee or,
I do the
or
same exact
Tom
thing.
Billier and these. Yeah.
I actually got like if I find myself listening to music, I'm like, nah, I should be listening to a podcast right now. Like, yo, I could be learning about business or how to handle employees and stuff like that.
I think of it as I'm in the car with my friends.
Yeah.
Right. So I look at it as that I'm being influenced by the type of people I want to be influenced by.
Yeah, and those are all fun, interesting people to be around, like Gary Vaynerchuk, awesome personality, Tim Ferriss, beyond
Another one.
knowledgeable, Tom Bilyeu, amazing interviewer, and just always asks like the perfect questions. Those guys are awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
man. He's Andy Frisella is one of my favorites too. He's just F word every other sentence. So if you can't, if you're not into that, is
If you have a long ride, you get.
But his points, that's true. He'll keep you awake. But the points that he makes are extremely valid. So
That's cool, man. So last thing I want to ask you, what was there a moment when you were at Apple, like right before you left? Was there like what conversation did you have in your head where you were like, all right, it's time for me to do basketball? Was there like a moment? Like,
yeah, the conversation that I had in my head was that at Apple, I was a manager in every department. I had managed in in operations, I didn't do that as a manager. I did it as a supervisor. Not much different, but I did the sales floor. I did the service department, what you guys know as the Genius Bar. And I was constantly coaching people. I was coaching people on how to get themselves better, how to handle difficult situations, how to gain confidence. These were all the things I was doing. So I when I had the opportunity to coach more, I looked in the mirror and I said, okay, I'm coaching basketball now, but I'm doing it with an iPhone. I'm coaching iPhones instead of basketballs.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it was. And I said,
but you noticed you were good
which
at it.
vehicle? Yeah, I knew. Yeah. I knew that I could do it, but I said, which vehicle do I really want to put which one really feeds me? Which one do I really enjoy?
That's awesome.
And I was like, basketball. Basketball would be my vehicle over technology anyway. Not that I don't love technology, use it all the time. Loved Apple too. Culture, everything, the people, everything. But ended up just saying to myself, nah, you know what? The vehicle I want to use is basketball. That's my love.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to leave it off. Is there if someone wants to the like 40 people listening to this, is there if someone has a question, Instagram, do you know what your Instagram is?
Yeah, no, that means if 40 people listen to this, that means I have a chance of 0.4 of them going to Instagram.
10%.
So that's Coach Joe Calabria.
Okay.
Is my Instagram.
All right, cool, man.
They can go on there, and then they can find my other social media that way too. If you just type in Coach Joe Calabria, you can find it. You'll find Calabria Acupuncture for my website, and Calabria Acupuncture has its own Instagram and stuff too. And so you can usually see all the different athletes that I work with and
Cool, man.
kind of what I'm doing if I'm keeping up with it. Actually, it would be cool too if people just commented and kind of blew me up a little bit, like as far as like and you can even DM me. I'm sorry, I say comments as if I want attention. No, like you can DM me and be like, yo, you're not posting.
Yeah.
Like you can call me out.
Like step it up, Joe.
Yeah, I'm fine with
Step it
that.
up, Joe. I'm gonna
fine
call
with
you
that.
on that.
Yeah.
You're not posting twice a day. What's wrong with you?
Where's your stuff?
Where's your stuff? All right, man. I had a good time, man. We definitely. I've been saying this to everyone I do the podcast with. I'm like, yeah, we got to do this again. But we'll definitely do it again because I had a
We
blast.
will.
Man.
I'll have you on mine.
All right, dude. Sounds good.
Held to it.
Yeah.